Now that I'm almost 28 years old, there's a bunch of things I wish I knew when I was 20. Had I known these things, it would have helped speed up the journey to get to my destination quicker. Whether it was my financial, job, or personal development destination, it would have helped me get there sooner and avoid all those common mistakes. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 6 biggest things I wish I knew when I was 20 years old, to hopefully accelerate you on your journey and help you avoid all those common mistakes you may make. This knowledge is universal. This also may help people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Stay tuned.
Is it Brian? Yes.
Your 20s are a pivotal moment in your life where you can spend the next 10 years wisely, build something good for your life, and set yourself up for success. But you can become 3 people after college, and the fact that I'm telling you this might shock you. So the first person you may become after college is the person that can't give up college. This is the person that's going out to bars every single weekend with their college friends, basically trying to replicate college after college. This is a toxic lifestyle to keep up for the next 5 to 10 years, and eventually when you get married, that's when you realize you can't do this anymore. And at that point, when you're married in your 30s and you have kids, you realize and look back and say, hey, I wasted my whole 20s just basically going out with my college friends every single weekend. So that's the first person you may become after college. The second person is the person that buckles up at their job, like literally gets a job after college, sits down at their desk, and buckles up for the next 40 years because that's where they're going to be sitting till they retire, which really can become a problem when you get married and have kids down the road, because you're going to realize that after working all those hours at work over and over year after year, it starts to wear you down to the point where you come home, you see your wife and your kids, and you really don't have the energy to give them anything. These are the type of people that believe that being at a desk for the next 40 years is what they're supposed to do after college, and then at some point in their life, they realize it was basically society telling them they had to do it, but they didn't really want to do it. They don't love to go to work. They want to do something for themselves now. And here's the last person you can be after college. The third person is the person that knows that your 20s is a huge 10 years where you can experiment and make a ton of mistakes and set yourself up for huge success down the line. So I spent 8 years in my 20s basically fumbling around. I worked a part-time job after college making $20,000 a year. A lot of people would have laughed at me. For the first 3 years after college, I wasn't making pretty much anything after you take out the rent and the bills every single month. I was running, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was experimenting with a lot of things that were failing. I made a startup that failed. I tried Amazon fulfillment, which did not work. I traded the stock market, which also failed a couple times. So in my 20s, I made a ton of mistakes, but I took the leap of faith. I took the risk, and to where I'm at today, I can say I'm proud of what I've become, and I've experienced so much growth in my 20s because of it. And just looking back at the other 2 people you could have became after college, you could have spent your 20s drinking with your friends for the next 5 to 10 years and not really developing yourself or businesses or skills, or you could have sat down at a desk for another company and, just got great at what you were good at, whether it was engineering, being a librarian, or painting houses. My point is, when you sit down at a desk every day, you're just developing a core set of skills, and you may never ever find your passion if you don't experiment and fail with things. So this is the channel to motivate and inspire for everyone paving their own path. And I want to give you the 6 things I wish I knew in my 20s that would have sped up the learning curve and helped me get to where I want to get to sooner without making all those terrible mistakes. So buckle up right now. Here's the first thing I wish I knew in my 20s. Basically, life gets hard and it gets real quick. And this may be depressing for me to say, and you may not want to hear this, but your 20s are exponentially going to get harder and harder every single year as you just manage life, unfortunately. Because the truth is, society has made this whole American dream where we all want to get a house and a car and a job, and that's what we're supposed to do in life. But here's the thing, that is basically just shackles. You're basically getting imprisoned whenever you do any of those things. When you go to college, you get student loans. You have to pay those off for 10 to 30 years. So you're basically a prisoner to your student loans for 30 years. Whether it's $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, you don't have the freedom anymore. The American society has shackled you up and imprisoned you, so you really don't have any choice but to go to your job every day and get your paycheck and pay the bank which you use to get your education from. But seriously, if you want to start your own business, those student loans are just looming over your head. You know you're going to have to try to find a way to pay them off every single month. So you just don't have that freedom you would have had if you didn't go to college. And the next thing, after college, you get a car, and you're probably going to get a car loan, and that's just more debt. And all debt is basically stronger bars in your prison cell, so you really can't get out and do what you want to do in life. The more and more debt you get, the harder it is to get free from all that. After your car loan, you head over to get a house because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what everybody does. So you get a house, and that adds on to your debt payments every single month. So $2,000, let's say, from student loans. The car payment, let's say it's $300. The mortgage payment, let's say that's another $2,000. So we're looking at $4,300 every single month just because the American society is telling you that's what you're supposed to do. Just to make that from a job, you need at least $70,000 just to break even. After taxes, you're really not making any money after all that debt that's on your plate. And this is why it gets real in life, because you think you have to do certain things, and it leads you to basically imprison yourself, and you're never ever going to be able to live your passions if you're imprisoned, if you know what I'm saying. For example, after college, if I had student loans, luckily I didn't, I wouldn't been able to get that $20,000 part-time job and invest the other time in yourself. So mom and dad, if you're watching this, I'm super appreciative and grateful that I never had student loans, and I'm so happy that I was able to do my own thing after college, because where I'm at today is just such an exciting place in my life, and I hope you get there too, everyone. That's the one biggest thing I wish I knew when I was 20 years old, and I would say everyone in their 20s, make sure whatever you're going to college for, you at least talk to somebody working in the position you want to be in or the company you want to be at, to make sure it's a good fit for you. Make sure you interview a couple people in the fields you want to go in and see if they're happy, if they have a happy marriage, if they have good finances. Look at the car they're driving, the house they're living in, and then ask yourself if you want that life. That is something I wish I did, and that's something I wish everybody in college does for their future selves. I think it would really help themselves out. Let's move on to the second thing I wish I knew when I was 20 years old, and this is investing. I wish I knew the power of the stock market and the real estate market when I was 20 years old. Unfortunately, I didn't figure this out till I was 25 years old, and then it really changed my life once I did figure it out, because the house you see right now generates about $2,000 per month because I know how to integrate it with real estate. And the stock market for me generates about $5,000 to $7,000 per month because I'm good at trading it, and I'm also good at teaching people how to trade it. So people also pay me to help them learn the stock market, which is cool. But the truth is, those are the two biggest elevators to financial success: real estate and investing. And I wish I knew that when I was 20. And here's basically what you need to know in a nutshell. Whatever company you're working for, I'm not going to be a company basher right now. I'm not going to be a corporate world basher. It's okay if you're working a job. There's nothing wrong with it if you feel passionate about it, if you love it. I am 100% on board with you doing that. But here's the thing, you can win at a job by opening up that 401k with them and trying to get the employer to match the money going in. So if you have a job, if you're self-employed, or if you're working any side hustles, you can open up a 401k and a Roth IRA. This basically helps you avoid taxes and invest your money into the stock market, where it could potentially grow 8% risk-free every single year just by investing in the indexes. So I look at the SPY and the Triple Q. Those are two indexes that are just super easy to put your money in and have it grow for you every single year. So just for example, if you put $10,000 in your 401k, let's say your employer matches half of that, so that's a free $5,000. You already made a 50% return on your investment. That's $15K in your retirement account, and you avoided taxes on it coming in. So multiply that by 20%. So that's about $3,000 you also saved, $18,000, and now you're making 8 to 10% per year on that $18,000. But the money you have in your 401k, let's say it's $15,000, makes 10% per year, that's 1,500, and then that 1,500 is making 10% the next year. So that's the power of compound interest, and I just explained that to you in 20 seconds. Probably doesn't make any sense, but open up a 401k, make sure you check it out. I'm not a financial advisor, this isn't financial advice, but it'd be really smart for you to understand what passive index investing is, especially with retirement accounts. Roth IRA, 401k, best decisions you can make in your 20s, and that is one thing I really wish I knew when I was actually 20 years old instead of 25. I'm actually going to enlighten you on what passive index investing is, because the fact is, if you don't make your money work for you, you're going to end up working for you for longer than you probably feel comfortable, meaning you might be working till you're 60 or 65 years old, and the only way to stop working is to have your money work for you, which means you can retire earlier, hopefully in your 40s and 50s if you do this correctly. So passive index investing is super simple. It's having a set amount you put in the stock market every single month. And if you're watching this in your 20s, you have the best chance of investing only $200 to be a millionaire by the time you're 60 years old. And just for reference, if you have $1 million when you're 60 years old, you'll be able to have $50,000 per year just off of dividend funds easily. And if you start early, this is fully possible for you, just $200 in your 20s. If you wait 10 years, that amount goes up to about $660. So if you wait, the longer you wait, the more money you have to put in to have that money work for you to catch up to that. And just the basics of passive index investing is what I told you about earlier. We're just investing into the index of the stock market. I preferably like the SPY and the Triple Q. Those are ones that just hold a basket of stocks, so you have some safety and diversification, so you don't have to worry about you're losing your money or anybody calling it gambling, because like I said before, real estate and investing are the two elevators to financial success. If you don't use those to have your money work for you, you're going to be working for you for a long time. And I don't pretend to be a real estate professional, but I do use real estate to bring in $2,000 per month, like I said. And you can always scale this, have multiple houses bringing in that same amount every single month. And I don't know, you can also fix and flip houses. There's a lot of possibilities with real estate. But like I said, this is not something I really focus on and know too well, other than what I do personally right now. But just a fun fact about this house is I spent about 1 month remodeling this whole house, and I put about $35,000 into remodeling it. The price of the house rose by $60,000. Just by investing my time and money into the house, I was able to double my investment almost, which just shows you the power of real estate, especially if you can buy something that's beaten up. Same thing with the stock market. You can buy stocks low and make money. You can buy houses low and make money. So the fourth thing I wish I knew in my 20s was credit cards are actually good things. A lot of people in my life are scared of credit cards. They don't talk well of credit cards. But I also know a lot of smart people using credit cards to make thousands of dollars per year. So that intrigued me, and I picked their brains on it. And at 25 years old, after not having any credit score, having no credit cards, I finally got my first credit card and got into this credit card game. It was super exciting. I ended up making $500 my first year from having a credit card. This is pretty crazy, because the fact is, credit cards will pay you to spend money, because most of the time people use credit cards the wrong way. So they're going to buy like a TV and end up paying that off over time, which means you're going to hit that interest rate. So you're paying almost twice as much for that TV, depending on the length of period you're paying off your credit card. So for those people using their credit cards, it's costing them every single month, but that money goes to the credit card company and also goes to me. So I'm profiting from people not being able to use their credit cards properly, and I want to teach you how to do that. So make sure you at least get a credit card early in your 20s and build some credit, because as you spend money every single year, you could be making money from it. It's passive income. It's super easy. Just from opening a credit card this year and spending $3,000, I was able to just get a $500 check in the mail just for getting that credit card and hitting that limit that I needed to in the first couple of months. Again, that's $500 free money, basically 15% off my first $3,000. And if you add on the 3% I was getting per purchase, that's 18%. One of my favorite credit cards I ever got in my 20s is the Discover It card, and I would suggest everybody open up one of these cards as soon as possible. If you sign up below, you'll get $50 with my link in the bio. And the key with this credit card is the first year, if you know you're going to spend a lot in this year of your life, this credit card could pay you 10% on whatever you spend. So it's got a bunch of rotating categories every single quarter, whether it's Amazon, Walmart, or grocery stores, or restaurants, or traveling. All of these rotating categories will give you 5% for a 3-month period. So right now, we're in this December period where online shopping is huge, and they actually have that rotating category being online shopping, surprisingly. So, I'm making 10% on anything I buy in that category. So if I spend $10, I'm making $1. If I spend $10,000, I'm making $1,000. So it's pretty crazy how much you could get back by just utilizing credit cards. Not to mention it boosts your credit score if you use them properly, develop a credit history, and just show that you can pay everything on time. All in all, credit cards are one of the smartest things you can do in your 20s, and they're also free money if you know how to use them. Again, link in the bio for my favorite credit card. The fifth thing I wish I knew when I was 20 years old was to save money. Save money a little bit more aggressively than I'm doing today, which means 3 to 6 months of your expenses at least in your bank account. If you could get to 1 year's expenses, that is huge. So the key with saving money is that you're spending $3,000 per month on living, car bills, etc. If you lose your job, what happens in that scenario? Can you pay the bills just as easily? So it's very important to save money for hard times, and you have to be prepared for pretty much anything down the road. So if you spend $3,000 per month, you want to get to a point where you have $9,000 in your bank account or even $18,000. Eventually, you want 1 year's salary in your bank account and saving that. And the good thing is this money doesn't really depreciate because you can put it in a savings account where it can make you 2% every single year. So that's just a little bit of money to offset inflation. But I like to live life on the edge, so sometimes I have almost no money in my bank account and sometimes I have a lot of money in my bank account. But after learning hard lessons in my 20s, I realized I really need to have 3 to 6 months expenses at all times and not really risk anything more. And this is key for everyone in their 20s because you're probably going to go on that extra vacation when you have a set amount in your bank account. Your first $1,000, you're like, wow, where can I spend this as quickly as possible? But that's not what you should do. Just please save and have at least 6 months savings in your bank account because you really don't want to have a hard time come and turn to credit card debt because that's going to ruin you for the next 2 years as you're paying off that 20% interest rate. They really wreck people who don't understand how to use credit cards properly. And just for example, one of the bigger mistakes I made, I said it in my last video on my 6 worst purchases in my 20s, is I spent a lot of money on debt for my Tesla. So I bought a new car, the same thing I'm telling everyone not to do. I bought a Tesla Model 3 and I paid off $20,000 off my debt in the first year. And I could have just slowly paid it off over the next 5 years, but I decided to pay it off as quickly as possible, which led to me not having a lot in my bank account and led to some hard times in a couple month period where, I had to pay some bills that I wasn't really ready for. Looking back in hindsight, I wish I didn't pay it off as quickly and kept that money in my bank account, but you really don't know what's going to happen in life, so that's why it's important to save and at least have some cushion for yourself. So this whole video is about stuff that I didn't know when I was 20 years old that I wish I knew, but this last thing is something I hope you figure out in your 20s that I figured out early and led my life to do every single year. And this is basically trying things and being comfortable with failure because most people in their 20s just want to go on the safe and secure route and don't want any risk in their life. I mean, you shouldn't be like me where you go and drop $500 on the roulette table in 10 minutes, but you should be somewhere in the middle where you're not afraid to try something new and you're not afraid to bet on yourself, invest in yourself, and see what comes out because you're going to be happy with the skills you learned from failing. And more importantly, if you succeed from trying something dangerous, it's going to be a great feeling for you. Because here's the sad fact. When you have a family, when you're retired, you can't afford to fail. You can only afford to fail in your 20s because you don't have anything really depending on you. You don't have kids that need to be fed every single night. You don't have a wife that needs to have a house to live under. When you're 20 years old, you can risk everything and still be okay in your life and not ruin relationships. And when you're 60 years old, you really can't take any risks. So that's where you basically want to play it 100% safe. But personally, in my 20s, I had a failed startup and I lost money in the stock market multiple times. Not to mention, I pursued professional running my whole 20s and I got injured for 2 years in my 20s from running. So I failed at almost everything I did, but the skills I learned and the people I met along the way made it so valuable, and I don't really regret it at all. So I'm just begging you, everybody in your 20s, don't go the safe and secure route if you don't think that is you. If you think you're the person that needs to find something more in life, make something of their own, try to do that. Try to fail and be comfortable. Try to put yourself on the edge, because you only have a limited time period where you can create a business for yourself and have it for the rest of your life. Like I said, once you have a family and kids, you really can't take that risk. So if you want to open up a yoga studio, go for it. Who knows what that turns into in the next couple years. But the skills you learn from managing expenses, trying to get customers in, trying to teach yoga classes, you're going to learn so many skills from doing that whole process that maybe your yoga business failed, but the next business you have is maybe a grocery delivery business where you just pick up groceries for people and deliver them. The same skills you learned in that yoga business, maybe it was keeping track of expenses, understanding customers. Maybe that helps you have a successful business with this grocery delivery business. So please take some risks in your 20s. Who knows where those skills could be in the next 10 years from now. And the last thing associated with risks is just try everything. So if you fail with the yoga studio, try the next thing. If you fail with that, try the next thing. Eventually, if you try everything, something amazing will happen. You will find your passion, and that'll be so exciting for you in your life because you'll know what you're passionate about, what you want to build your life around. And for me, I tried a bunch of things and I fell in love with the stock market. And I'm on the stock market every single day teaching people how to trade stocks. And I'm also on YouTube just educating people on how to live their life on their own path and how to do it as well as possible. So if this sounds like you, make sure you subscribe, comment below on what business you got going on, and make sure you like this video. Lastly, I want to tell you about the 6 worst purchases I made in my 20s. Number 6 will shock you. Check it out to the right of me. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 6 things I bought that I really regret in my 20s, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you about them in this video. But the fact is, your 20s are an exciting